Hello everyone, welcome to VENKANNA English Guru, my friends. Friends, do you have a lot of problems in the process of understanding critical theory? Do you want to score good marks as a part of literary criticism, as a part of literary theory, and different by understanding a number of strategies and techniques? And do you have a lot of problems in the process of understanding these aspects? And do you really want to know good strategies of reading different theories of criticism? If yes, this video is for you, my friends. So how to understand here, in my previous video I made how to read critical theories, and I am giving you a best example how you can understand new criticism, and we have plenty of critical theories starting from Russian formalism to cognitive literary studies. And in this video I am using only one important theory, what is new criticism. So how do you get bits based on this? So when you are reading this, your focus should be always on what is this theory and what is literature to this theory and who coined it and who are the members of this particular group and who practiced, what is the background towards this particular theory of criticism. Next, what are the literary texts, what are the literary works that become example for this new criticism, and only based on these you will get bits as a part of your NET examination, as a part of your set examination, or if you really want to be a JL or DL. So when you talk about new criticism, it's coined by the publication of, it is the word coined by John Crow Ransom, who wrote a wonderful book called New Criticism. The title of the book is The New Criticism, composed in 1941, and which is written by John Crow Ransom. This is very important, my friends, coined by John Crow Ransom. Several times this bit was asked. And what is this new criticism? It's a theory and practice that was prominent in American literary criticism during 1960s. It's a type of formalism. So formalism, which looks at language, which looks at literature, is specialized kind of language, not anything else. Literature, so how does it look at literature? It's a kind of formalism. Next, this new criticism took inspiration from these three important works, very important these are, and Principles of Literary Criticism by I.A. Richards, Practical Criticism by I.A. Richards, and Critical Essays by T.S. Eliot. These three books influenced new critics, influenced the process of and evolving the theory new criticism into place. Very important, my friends. Next, and who are the important members of this particular group? And you can find John Crow Ransom, Sidney Hinton Mitch, Cleanth Brooks, Robert Penn Warren, Alan Tate, R.P. Blackmore, W.K. Wimsatt, Monroe C. Birdsley, F.R. Lewis, and like these are the F.R. Lewis I think I have used somewhere. So these are the popular important critics, and you will get who of the following is not a critic, new critic. You need to know this, and you can have a wonderful screenshot and you can read. And what are the important books and as a part of this new criticism which were written by and understanding poetry, Cleanth Brooks, and the classes that I have been taking by following this book, and which I have read more than 10 years ago, which is very wonderful. How to read a poem, what components, how to read a poem for academics, how to read a poem for different competitive exams. Not, they don't talk about, but once you read, you will get a sense. Understanding fiction, Robert Penn Warren, F.R. Lewis. Several times this bit was asked, who coined the word great tradition? F.R. Lewis, remember. Great Tradition, coined by F.R. Lewis. Great Tradition, it's a book written by F.R. Lewis, which includes three important writers, George Eliot, Henry James, not Frames. James, this is a kind of mistake. Henry James and Joseph Conrad, very important one. I.A. Richards, Practical Criticism, Critical Essays, T.S. Eliot, William Epson, 7 Types of Ambiguity. Several times this was asked. And Cleanth Brooks, The Well Brought On, and W.K. Wimsatt, The Verbal Icon in 1954. All these are the popular works that are related to new criticism. Next, when you talk about and F.R. Lewis, where he talks about his views and the detailed and what are the ideas of F.R. Lewis. The detailed analysis of literary texts themselves was the words on the page. So the process of analyzing poetry, analyzing literature, only just observing the words, not reading anything else. The process of understanding the words is nothing but new criticism. The emphasis, according to F.R. Lewis, the emphasis concrete, life-affirming enactment of moral and cultural values. The process of interpreting, the process of writing, composing a literary text mainly to promote cultural values, to promote moral values among the audience, among the readers. This is going to be the only aim. And stressed also the essential role in education of great tradition of English literature in advancing the values of culture and civilization. So the purpose of writing literature is promoting values, promoting civilization among the in a society, in a country. This is the aim of reading literature and interpreting literature, analyzing literature, composing literature according to F.R. Lewis. This is called great tradition. And F.R. Lewis, The Great Tradition, George Eliot, Henry James, Joseph Conrad. This is very important book written by F.R. Lewis. Next, and what is the background? Why do you and what prompted to bring out this new criticism? Because in 1950s and 60s there were a lot of oppositions to this. Many critics opposed biographies of author. The process of interpreting a text, if you want to interpret a text, if you want to criticize a text, what is not very important? Biographies of the author. When you analyze a poetry, when you analyze a poem or a drama or a novel, biography of the author is not required. And social context of literature, which is irrelevant according to new criticism. Literary history, what is the history of the writer, what is the history of the book, what is the history of the poem. These are irrelevant according to new criticism. So new criticism opposes literary history of the text and social context of the novel or a poem or a drama and biography of the author. For example, when you analyze a poem, we read about the writer, but new criticism says that you should not. The author's biography is not going to play any role for effective interpretation. Next, the proper concern of literary criticism, not the external circumstances or effects. So when you analyze literature, external circumstances, so like biography of the author, social context, literary history, these are not required. These external circumstances or effects are not required for effective interpretation of a poem, of a novel, of a drama. Historical position of the work, which is not required, in which context the story was written, in which context was the play composed, and the history, the context, the situation, and for writing the novel or a poem, which is not required. And what is required? Detailed consideration of the work itself as an independent. The process of reading the poem itself is very important. And which context was it written? Not required. What history was it going to talk about? Not required. In which historical conditions was the novel or a drama or a poem was composed? Irrelevant according to this criticism, and which was opposed. These were opposed by these critics. And the kind of explicit analysis of verbal interactions and characteristics of the new criticism derived from, and they took inspiration from these two important works. Practical Criticism, William Epson, 7 Types of Ambiguity. These are the two important works where they took inspiration to write this literature and to introduce this. What are the major important characteristics, and how does this theory look at literature? Very, very important. The poem is primarily as poetry, not anything else. So new criticism believes that you need to read a poem as a poem. You need to read a novel as a novel. You need to read a drama as a drama. A drama is not personal emotions of the writer, historical aspects of a society, or maybe anything else. It is not going to talk about the biography or history or culture or society. No, a poem should be read as a poem. Okay, poem per se, very popular dialogue. And a poem should be therefore as an independent, self-sufficient verbal object. Only you need to focus on what words are being used, what sentences, what phrases, what clauses, what simple sentences, what compound sentences, what figurative expressions, what meter, what stanza, what ironical expressions that are being used in the text. These are relevant. Not the history of the writer, not the culture of the writer, not the religion of the writer, not the gender of the poet or the novelist, which are irrelevant according to new criticism. Next, A poem shall be always objective, not subjective. Objective. So you need to look at a novel from the perspective of internal aspects. What are internal? The prosody, stanza form, figurative expressions, rhyme scheme, okay, words, phrases, sentences. Okay, next, the process of using close reading of the text. These are irrelevant. What are irrelevant? History of the writer, biography of the writer, or the social conditions, or the culture, or the socio-political situations of the time. Irrelevant according to new criticism. Shall cite the nature of the object, shall recognize the autonomy of the work. You need to look at as an individual text where you are not going to use other sources. External sources are irrelevant in the process of interpreting the text. Existing for its own sake, new critics warn the reader against critical practices which divert attention from the poem. Intentional fallacy, affective fallacy, where you are going to influence of the reader. You look at the writer and you read the text. No. Okay, and writer's intention, writer's culture, writer's gender, writer's educational background, all these are irrelevant according to new criticism. Next, we can see in analyzing and evaluating a particular work, they avoid, very important, new critics they avoid biography of the writer and the temperament of the author, next social conditions of the author, and the time of its production, in which context, in which time was it actually produced, whether it is industrial time, political time, economic crisis. So those are irrelevant. And psychological and moral effects on the reader. So this is not going to be the major concern of new criticism. And history of literary text, in which historical context was it actually composed, which is irrelevant. Next, the principles of new criticism are just verbal. These, what are the major principles? Only verbal. The words, phrases, sentences, and the type of syntactical, morphological structures, and figurative expressions, rhyme scheme, rhythm, intonation, and irony, paradox, structure, texture. So all these are very important in the process of analyzing a poem or a novel, not the other things. Literature is conceived to be a special kind of language. It's a special only language, science of language. A rhetoric, study of rhetoric is required to analyze a poetry in a better way according to new criticism. Explicit procedures. So explicit procedures, what are explicit procedures? And understanding words, interpreting words, figurative expressions, symbols, imagery, symbolisms, impressions, organic unity, overall structure, the process of understanding overall structure, verbal meanings. These are very important in the process of understanding a text, not the other aspects. Next, the distinctive procedure of new critics is explication. Friends, you can learn this meaning, explication, which is also called close reading. So, new criticism focuses on these aspects, a detailed analysis of the complex interrelations and ambiguities. What are the multiple meanings of the words, phrases, and sentences? That's it. It is not going to use external factors. All these are internal. The process of understanding, interpreting, analyzing internal aspects of the poem or a novel. That is explication or close reading. And explication detects, stressing all kinds of information relevant to the full understanding of a word or a passage. So you will understand the meanings of the words, meanings of the phrases, meanings of a paragraph. So to understand both standard and literal meaning. So has long been formal procedure of teaching, and this was first used, this close reading or explication first applied by French scholars. Next, you can see the essential components of literary genres of literature are conceived to be words. This is what I've been talking about. What are very important? Words are very important. Next, images are very important. Symbols are very important. Not character, and character, thought, and plot. These are irrelevant. What are very important? Words, images, symbols. These are more important rather than character or thought or plot, which are irrelevant according to new critics. These linguists, and hence they focused on the words like attention, irony, and paradoxes in receiving the meaning of a poem, and various other aspects. And they give importance to the structure. What is the structure of the novel, structure of the poem, structure of a drama? These are relevant. Tension, irony, paradox, structure, tone, images, symbols, words, phrases, all these are internal aspects. So these are given much importance according to the new critics, John Crow, Ransom. And what are the important internal techniques and that are actually coined by these new critics? Tension is very important in the process of reading a poem or a novel according to R.P. Blackman. Structure and texture, these are very important when you analyze a novel or essay or a short story according to R.P. Blackman and Robert Penn Warren. Next, metaphor, irony, paradox, these are very important according to Cleanth Brooks. Friends, these were repeated several times in the history of NET. This one page, which is enough to get a bit in the next coming UGC-NET exam. Intentional fallacy, which is very important according to W.K. Wimsett, Monroe Birdsley. Affective fallacy, which is very important according to W.K. Wimsett and Monroe Birdsley. Decision of sensibility, T.S. Eliot. Ambiguity is very important. The process of receiving multiple interpretations, multiple meanings of a word or an image. This is very important according to William Epson. The different techniques that were adapted by new critics. Okay, this is what I wanted to talk about. And like our video, share our videos to your friends. And for more videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, VENKANNA English Guru. Thank you for watching.